Hello, good morning to all of you participants who have joined us already. We will give the incoming visitors a few more minutes to join us, and then we'll kick off for real with this webinar. Of course, thanks for joining us wherever you are. So we're giving ourselves a few more minutes, and then we'll be back with you. As some of you might know, it turns out we've chosen an amazing day, relatively quiet weather in Europe, but typhoon in Hong Kong. So we're saying a big thank you to those who join us from Hong Kong, battered by a typhoon. Okay, dear participants and dear panelists, a very good morning from InvestHK here in Brussels. A very good morning to all the participants who are joining us from Europe as well as from Asia. And firstly, thank you for making the time. I know that for viewers from the UK, it's actually quite early. For us here in continental Europe, a comfortable 10 o'clock. And for the colleagues in Hong Kong, a very nice afternoon slot. So good to have you all here. The welcome is on behalf of InvestHK, also of the Shenzhen European office, and a big word of thank you to our 5 speakers. Let me share with you the house rules. As you can all have seen in the program, we'll have 5 speakers and then a Q&A session. The Q&A session, we would like to make it as live as possible. So please, may I point out to you the raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. So if during the Q&A you want to ask a question, please do raise hand. We will then unmute you so you can ask your question. And then when asking the question, also make sure to tell us who the question is for. But that is for the Q&A session at the beginning. At the end, of course. Another important announcement I would like to make is about the raffling off of tickets for Web Summit. As some of you might have seen in the invitation, we are raffling off 3 tickets to Web Summit. That, as of today, we just checked the website, have a market value, so to speak, of 900 euros. We will raffle off those tickets amongst those who are with us here in the session. And my colleague Wing-Hing Chang will announce in his closing remarks who are the 3 lucky winners. We will then speak to the winners and ask the winners whether they're actually going to use the ticket. And if they cannot use the ticket, then we will pull out the next name from the box, right? Because we would like to make sure the ticket actually gets used. So now then, to the topic at hand, Hong Kong and Shenzhen, twin cities in the Greater Bay Area. The Greater Bay Area is a concept that's getting more and more known, right? It's Macau, Hong Kong, and 9 cities in what is called the Greater Bay Area. And the speakers of today will all give you information about this Greater Bay Area from their particular point of view and from their particular business point of view. So we hope that all you entrepreneurs in the room can be inspired by the testimonials and consider how the GBA might work for your business. So without further ado, let me announce the first speaker. That is Mr. David Wong, the head of the Greater Bay Area team in Invest Hong Kong. Due to the typhoon challenges in Hong Kong and wanting to make sure that everything goes smoothly, David will be with us via a video recording. However, David will be connecting live for the Q&A session, so you can ask him your questions. So let us start the video now then, and I'll come back to you after this.
Hello, welcome to our webinar on the opportunities of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area. I'm David Wong, the head of Greater Bay Area Business Development Team of Invest Hong Kong. Allow me to briefly introduce Invest Hong Kong and the GBA Business Development Team. One of the key tasks of the GBA team is to spearhead this pan-GBA investment liaison group to allow us to work closely with our counterparts so that we can go and sell GBA to the world together. There are other tasks that we do, including attracting international companies to set up in the GBA and working closely with different stakeholders. Invest Hong Kong, as you are aware, is the investment promotion agency of the Hong Kong SAR government. We have different offices across the world, including in London, Brussels, and Berlin. We also have different sector teams to provide free, custom-made, and confidential services to international companies like you. We have a dedicated GBA website to allow international audience to get a better feel and knowledge on the opportunities of the GBA. In addition to the overview of the entire region, we also provide investment landscape of each GBA cities, as well as the supporting policies and also case studies of successful international companies to expand into the GBA through Hong Kong. There are a lot of information out there about the development of the GBA. So we have prepared a series of weekly articles introducing different GBA cities, as well as key important policy development. I hope you will find that these articles informative, and the link to my LinkedIn account can be found at the end of the slide. So what are the opportunities of the GBA? As many of you are already aware, this region in southern China has a population of 86 million, which is more than Germany, and a combined GDP of $1.6 trillion. To put that into perspective, that would rank the entire GBA 10th in the world in terms of GDP size, similar to Australia, Spain, South Korea, and Russia. And this is only the GDP figures of GBA today. In the next 10 years, it's projected to reach 4.6 trillion, ranking it number 4 in the world. To make the comparison between this GBA and other Bay areas across the world, we do a simple comparison. As you can see, the number of stores of international consumer brands, there are actually quite a few of them have a large presence in the GBA that showcase the strong consumer power of this region. Most exciting part about this GBA development is that most of these consumers are only an hour or so away from Hong Kong. there is a high-speed rail linking Hong Kong to Guangzhou, cutting the traveling time to only 48 minutes, and also a bridge linking the east and west side of the Pearl River Delta, joining Macau, Zhuhai, and Hong Kong. There are many GBA cities. The four cores are Hong Kong, of course, the most international cities, International Financial Shipping Center, Macau, Leisure Center, Guangzhou, a trading hub, the provincial capital, and Shenzhen, our partner today, is an international technology and innovation center. Other GBA cities have advanced manufacturing, such as in Dongguan and Foshan, and Zhongshan and Zhuhai. Other cities in the outer rim of the GBA, Huizhou, Jiangmen, and Zhaoqing, they're also developing emerging industries. Hong Kong's strategic position in the GBA can be easily summarized in only one slide. B2C, of course, obviously, is the 86 million increasingly wealthy consumers where you can reach within 1 hour of Hong Kong and easily through cross-border e-commerce. B2B, they are leading and innovative enterprises where you can cooperate with, such as doing R&D in Hong Kong and then manufacturing in other GBA cities, or financial services in Hong Kong and operations in other mainland cities, or joint R&D in Hong Kong and Shenzhen. And please do not forget, there are more and more GBA homegrown companies that wants to go global through Hong Kong. They create a lot of demand for business and professional services for international companies. And last but not least, there is a growing connectivity between GBA and the Asian market in Southeast Asia. There are more and more policy measures to facilitate the people flow within the GBA and allow the people of Hong Kong to work and live in the GBA. I won't go through them here, but I'm sure you would appreciate the link between Hong Kong and the rest of GBA is increasing. There are many science and technology zones across the GBA. Hong Kong obviously have the Hong Kong Science Park, and we are working closely with Shenzhen to build a new joint park in the Lok Ma Chau Loop to be open in 2024. And there are other science and technology parks across the GBA with different focuses. Some of the key ones are summarized here. You can see there's quite a lot of business opportunity for R&D and technology development in the GBA. There are, of course, increasingly number, as I mentioned earlier, of high net worth and affluent middle-class consumer in the GBA. In addition to selling products to these people, these consumers also require financial services. One of the key and major development announced just recently is the Wealth Management Connect scheme, which will be operational in a few weeks. In this, it allows us companies in Hong Kong to offer financial services to mainland GBA investors, and for mainland GBA financial institutions to sell products to individual investors in Hong Kong and Macau. So that really creates a lot of opportunities of cross-border retail investment product and wealth management products solution that would benefit international financial institutions. Another exciting element of the GBA is that the GBA you see today is not the GBA you see tomorrow. There are more and more announcements from the central government, from the provincial government, and from the SAR government on new policy innovation and initiative coming in for different sectors from time to time. So actually, the whole GBA is evolving and it's getting more and more exciting and attractive for international companies. So briefly, to sum up, there are lots of exciting opportunities in the Greater Bay Area. And if you don't want to miss out the new development, please follow me on LinkedIn and also check out our GBA website for the latest development and major policy announcement in the Greater Bay Area. Thank you again for listening, and I look forward to the Q&A session. Thank you very much.
A big thank you to David for opening our appetite to the Greater Bay Area. One thing I wanted to mention is that we will share the slides. Everybody who signed up for this webinar will receive a PDF with all the presentations, as well as a link to the recording. So rest assured, you can all check the details later. And now, without further ado, I would like to introduce Dr. Xin Yan, who is the representative to Europe of the Shenzhen European office. And in the good spirit of the Twin City theme of today, Dr. Xin will share with us what Shenzhen has to offer. Dr. Xin, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paula, for introducing me. I'm going to share my PPT with everybody. Let me know if it's working. Yeah, right. Is it working for everyone?
It's working, yep. Xin, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Paula. And thank you to Invest in Hong Kong for making this event possible. And many thank yous for our guests for your interest in the Greater Bay Area. I'm honored to contribute to today's event with another fascinating city in the area, which is Shenzhen. The Greater Bay Area, as David just mentioned, has a population of 86 million and its total GDP amounts to 16 trillion RMB. Well, this region, with the high level of openness, strong economic vitality, is among the most dynamic in technical innovation and most concentrated of talents in China and maybe of the world. Located in the GBA, right to the north of Hong Kong, is the city Shenzhen. With more than 40 years of development, it has become a boisterous metropolitan with 33 million residents, home to 8 global Fortune 500 companies and 3.6 million commercial entities. As the mainland's window of reform and opening up, Shenzhen is well connected to the world logistically. It is the only city in China with sea, air, and land ports, and the largest export volume in mainland China for the last 28 years. Since the reform and opening up, Shenzhen has attracted more than 100,000 foreign invested enterprises from more than 170 countries and regions in the world, including around 300 global Fortune 500 companies, and so on. Well, in 2020, Shenzhen's actual used foreign capital reached more than 8,000 billion US dollars. It's a year-on-year increase of 11.8%. Whereas in the high-tech industry, including high-tech service industry, has achieved a higher annual growth rate of over 30% in the past 3 years. Well, although not as highly ranked as Hong Kong, Shenzhen took the 8th place in the latest issue of Global Financial Center Index in March 2021. Well, furthermore, with 1/3 of all China's venture capital and 1/5 of private equities having presence in Shenzhen, the city is considered a growing financial center in the area as well. Shenzhen has 2 major exhibition halls. The older one is where China High-Tech Fair is taking place every year. And the newer exhibition hall is really close to the airport. It's a single building with the largest overall floor area in the world, offering a total exhibition area of 500,000 square meters. Another pillar supporting Shenzhen's business environment is its intellectual property service. The city itself has a stellar record when it comes to intellectual property applications. In 2020, Shenzhen's PCT patent application has reached more than 20,000 cases. That accounts to about more than 30% of that of China and 7% of the world. With the designated IP court and 67 IP protection workstations in the city, Shenzhen has also implemented the first local IP protection law in China, which is known as the most stringent of its kind. Well, Shenzhen is called the tech capital of the world, Silicon Data, these nicknames, and has many nicknames regarding its industry and innovation development. Well, now let's take a look at what's happening in the city's industry landscape. Shenzhen has 4 industrial pillars, which are high-tech industry, financial industry, modern logistics, and cultural and creative industry. Meanwhile, 7 emergent industries, next generation IT, high-tech equipment manufacturing, new materials, green and low carbon industry, marine economy, biomedicine, and digital economy. Well, the 7 emergent industries currently contributing to 37 of the city's GDP. According to the latest 2020 Global Innovation Index issued by the World Intellectual Property Organization, it named the Shenzhen-Hong Kong region the 2nd most innovative among the global innovation clusters. Well, Shenzhen itself currently has 462 startup incubators, and correspondingly, there is 1 entrepreneur for every 10 people in the city on average, which makes Shenzhen the most entrepreneurial city in China. Taking the 5th generation mobile communication, for example, by the end of 2020, more than 46,000 5G base stations have been built to achieve full coverage of 5G networks in the city, so that Shenzhen becomes the first independent 5G networking city in the world. When it comes to incentives and funding opportunities, the companies have various choices, including special funds, tax incentives, land and housing incentives, talent development incentives, and so on. Well, I won't go into details for now, but my colleagues and I will be happy to help you navigate all of these if you reach out. Well, one might ask, what is Shenzhen like as a living space? Shenzhen is a very diverse, open and inclusive city, just like Hong Kong. It's a city built by immigrants, whereas more than 95% of the residents come from other cities, regions, and even countries. And the average age of the resident in Shenzhen is 32.5 years old. Well, currently there's over 1 million foreign nationals living in Shenzhen, and it is considered one of the top 10 most attractive Chinese cities in the eyes of foreign talents in 2019. Well, for me, 2 things make living in Shenzhen very special. Number 1 is that you can find authentic cuisine from almost every province in China in Shenzhen. Well, we all know that Hong Kong has a very fantastic culinary landscape when it comes to, even the Michelin star street food. But if you want to experience some northern Chinese food passion, just hop on the metro and come over to Shenzhen. There you'll find what you need. And secondly, it's probably the only city in Guangdong province that one can live absolutely language barrier free. If you only speak Mandarin, so to say, 普通话. I mean, don't take me wrong, I really love Cantonese and I love learning it from my friends there. It's like my dialect, Sichuanhua. It's a very fun and warming, lively dialect. Well, a few years ago when I landed in Shenzhen, the first thing that surprised me was how green it was. The giant banyan trees, lined avenues, birds chirping among the leaves, and families with children resting in the shade. Well, actually, in fact, 50% of the city is covered in green, with more than 1,000 parks and over 14,000 sports venues. Furthermore, Shenzhen switched to fully electric bus fleet in 2017, and its public taxis, logistic vehicles, and construction trucks also became electric in 2018. Apart from being high-tech and entrepreneurial and innovative, Shenzhen is also one of the 8 most beautiful coastlines in China by National Geographic, top 10 cities and countries worth visiting according to Lonely Planet, one of the 31 must-see destinations in the world according to New York Times. And if the above introduction has boosted your interest in Shenzhen a little bit, and if you want to venture further, we are here to support you. Established in 2000, the Shenzhen European office offers consultation to European companies wishing to enter Chinese market through Shenzhen, as well as Shenzhen-based companies looking to enter European market. Well, in addition, we serve as a liaison for the Shenzhen government and act as a point of contact for all economic, investment, and trade-related inquiries. We provide free consultation and matchmaking services to European and Shenzhen companies, including market analysis on trade and investment opportunities. We currently have representative offices in Belgium, Germany, the United Kingdom, Switzerland, and France. And if you reach out, our colleagues closest to you will get back to you very, very fast, almost within 24 hours. And yes, that concludes my introduction to Shenzhen. Thank you very much for your attention. And I wish to welcome you all in Shenzhen personally very soon. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Xin. That was a wonderful plea for Shenzhen and all it has to offer. Now, after these 2 presentations of a lot of information about Hong Kong as well as Shenzhen, let's go to the entrepreneurs, the companies who are living this. And the first speaker with us here is Chris Chow, who is the head of government affairs and market access of AstraZeneca in Hong Kong. AstraZeneca has become very famous in recent times because of the vaccine. But Chris, you're going to talk to us about AstraZeneca in Hong Kong and the GBA. The floor is yours.
Thanks, Paula. It's my pleasure and honor to speak to you. I'm Chris Chow, Head of Government Affairs and Market Access, AstraZeneca Hong Kong. So can you see my slide?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely fine.
So AstraZeneca is a science and innovation-led biopharmaceutical company with science being at the core of everything we do. We focus on leadership in 3 main therapeutic areas where we believe we can make the biggest difference. They are oncology, cardiovascular, renal, metabolism, respiratory, and immunology. We have a diversified portfolio of specialty and primary care medicines. Specialty care medicines now represent more than 50% of our total revenue. Our long-standing commitment to patients has led us to reimagine our patient-focused way of working. We aim to shape the whole patient experience through all key steps in patient journey, from prevention, awareness, diagnosis, treatment, post-treatment, and wellness. We believe that patient experience and outcomes are our shared responsibility, and that innovation doesn't happen in isolation. We would like to collaborate with stakeholders to build an integrated and open innovation healthcare ecosystem for better patient outcomes. Therefore, AstraZeneca develops health innovation hubs globally. We have hubs in emerging markets, EU, Canada, US, and Japan, and A-Catalyst networks currently includes more than 20 AstraZeneca global health innovation hubs, including Hong Kong and China. The networks brings together digital R&D and commercial resources to reimagine how we can improve patient outcomes. Since entering China market in 1993, AstraZeneca has consistently expanded its biomedicine investment in the country. China is our trusted healthcare partner. Currently, China is the #2 largest market of AstraZeneca Global. To support Healthy China 2030 initiative and China innovation benefiting globally, we have established China Healthcare IoT Innovation Center. We join hands with stakeholders to develop patient-centric holistic management solutions with smart health technology to address challenges and unmet needs of various diseases. These solutions have been launched by health executives in more than 6,000 hospitals in mainland China. Some of these solutions have been rolled out in the Greater Bay Area. With the vision of empowering healthy China with global wisdom, AstraZeneca collaborate with Wuxi government to co-build International Life Science Innovation Campus. We call it iCampus. It clusters 4D industrial elements, drugs, device, diagnostic, digital, and iCampus also provide one-stop enabling service to business, to companies who are interested to land in iCampus. And this service include landing, incubation, clinical study, product approval, IP, business development, commercialization, and funding. Since the official launch in September 2019, iCampus has already had 17 global landing companies, 5 strategic partners, including Society for Innovative Healthcare Hong Kong, and 6 VC partners. The iCampus is going to launch satellite sites in Guangzhou Bio-Island, Chengdu, Beijing, and Shanghai. The operation of new site in Guangzhou is committed to support biotech companies which are engaged in accurate diagnosis and early detections. 2 days ago, AstraZeneca also officially unveiled its R&D China Center, iCampus satellite site, and Medical Healthcare AI Innovation Center in Shanghai. These centers will help develop an R&D innovation ecosystem to benefit patients around the world. The new R&D centers cover a wide range of diseases, such as oncology, respiratory conditions, immunology, cardiovascular, renal, and metabolic, as well as rare diseases. In addition to developing new drugs and further addressing China's unmet medical needs, the R&D China Center will also participate in global early drug discovery efforts. AstraZeneca Hong Kong office has operated since 1990. Last year, we ranked number 4 in the Hong Kong pharmaceutical industry in terms of sales and revenues. We have participated in over 14 global studies. AstraZeneca Hong Kong established AstraZeneca Hong Kong Health Innovation Hub in the year of 2019. The objectives are to create and strengthen partnerships across emerging biomedical clusters to accelerate innovation, increase healthcare access, and improve outcomes for society. In collaboration with NGOs and startups, which are incubated by Hong Kong STP, and we have launched screening programs in community to mobilize early diagnosis of CKD and COPD. We collaborate with the Chinese University of Hong Kong to conduct research on DKD with genome sequencing and computational biology. This year, we joined hands with Hong Kong STP, Hong Kong Science Technology Parks to roll out co-incubation program. The program will support biomedical startup companies who are engaged in developing integrated oncology solutions. It's a 2-year commitment. This program can help accelerate innovation in oncology, and Hong Kong STP will offer startups up to Hong Kong $6 million financial subsidy and full support from IncuBio facility. And then AstraZeneca will connect them with key stakeholders and partners to help enhance their industry knowledge. In addition, we will also leverage our existing networks in mainland China and global markets, including iCampus, our A-Catalyst network, the SNARS Global Startup Community, and Cambridge Network to provide startups with further platforms to explore opportunities. Last year, the central government announced a new measure in GBA. It allowed designated hospitals to use innovative drugs and medical equipment which are registered and used in Hong Kong and Hong Kong public hospitals ahead of China NMPA approval. We will leverage this new measure to enhance patient outcomes in GBA. And recently, AstraZeneca Hong Kong and Nippo, which is a listing company in Hong Kong, have signed MOU. Both parties will explore how to accelerate the development of high-quality healthcare service in GBA. And both parties will also collaborate with local stakeholders and AstraZeneca Internet of Things Healthcare Innovation Center to develop innovative patient-centric solutions to address healthcare challenges in GBA. And with support from iCampus, we will leverage AstraZeneca Hong Kong STP incubation program to further support startups to scale up from Hong Kong to GBA. Thanks for your attention, and this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chris, and amazing how much information you managed to put in. Thank you so much. Then we now go to a Belgian biotech company that is also venturing into Hong Kong as well as mainland China with a number of interesting activities. Chris, can I ask you to close share so that Stephen can start sharing?
Yes, just a moment, it seems. Yeah.
At the top, it should say close share. Fantastic, thank you. Then I would like to introduce Mr. Stephen Powell, the CEO of Eterna. Stephen, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Paula, and I hope everybody can see my screen. So what I'd like to do very briefly is, with thanks to the organizers of the webinar, I'd like to give you a very quick introduction to Eterna, which, as Paula said, is a Belgian domiciled biotech company, and also talk a little bit about why we have taken the unusual step within the biotech industry for a company of our size in really taking strategic initiatives in Southeast Asia and indeed in Hong Kong. So perhaps just a little bit about what we do, first of all. Our roots are in Belgian academia. We were spun out of a group at the Free University of Brussels. And our focus is very much on developing RNA-based technologies to develop therapeutics, initially in oncology and infectious disease. But we have aspirations to be able to further develop our technology so that we can use this very important therapeutic modality in other areas beyond oncology and beyond infectious disease. Certainly, I think, unfortunately, as a result of the global impact of COVID, everybody now is aware, at least in principle, of what RNA is. So I don't think I need to spend time on that, but certainly the potential for it to make an impact in other clinical areas is perhaps less well understood and less well recognized. So as a company, we invest in the underpinning technologies as well as engineering therapeutic products. We also manufacture RNA, and we have a pharmaceutical grade manufacturing facility here in Belgium. And that's a very important piece of the story as to why we looked eastwards, when typically a lot of European companies, their first look is towards the West and into North America. So our business model, as I said, is to invest very significantly in extension and growth of novel technologies, and to use those technologies all focused around RNA to develop therapeutic products. These are therapeutic vaccines in cancer, and you can see we have 5 programs here, plus for prophylactic vaccines, which people now recognize the importance of RNA. So we have our own programs for respiratory viruses, including COVID, malaria, and HIV. And as we look to the future, we are really looking to put energies into developing products in autoimmune disease and potentially in certain rare disease areas. The key point on this slide is that to go into those new therapeutic areas, and indeed to progress our existing therapeutic focus, we need to partner. And partners enable us to monetize these technology assets. And we work very closely with partners around the world, both in terms of research and development collaborations, and indeed where we license rights, commercial rights to our products in exchange for milestone payments and royalties. So a very classical biotech company, really at the other end of the size spectrum from the previous speaker, from Chris from AstraZeneca. So Why did we look at Greater China? Why have we looked from there to broader Southeast Asia? Well, of course, it is one of the largest pharmaceutical markets in the world. It's the fourth largest pharmaceutical market, but growing extremely quickly. And the biotech sector is also growing very, very fast across Greater China. And in line with that, as we have seen over the past decades in both Europe and North America, with that growth in innovation becomes the growth in terms of investment capital as well. So for a young biotech company like us, it's a very attractive region with an appetite for technology, an appetite to grow and develop technologies rapidly, an appetite to develop talent, and of course, an appetite of investment capital, which probably 5 years ago was largely focused, if investments were made in the sector outside of Greater China, they were probably made in North America. But what we've seen recently is an increasing interest in EU-based companies, and the China region, it has continued to be very active through the last few years, with almost 30% of deals being now cut with EU-based companies. So a growing link between EU and China, and equally a very rapid growth in clinical trial applications, CTAs, and an ever increasing Southeast Asia clinical trial market. So a very attractive area for us where we are seeking partners. Our first partner in this region we announced last year, which is China Grand Pharma, which is a pharmaceutical company listed in Hong Kong. And with China Grand Pharma, who became an investor in Eterna, we have created a joint venture company called Orona, which is based in Nanjing. So off the back of the creation of this joint venture company, and together with China Grand Pharma, we're building an R&D center in Nanjing. We in turn at Eterna have established our own subsidiary in Hong Kong. The reason we have done that is really fourfold. It facilitates our interactions with partners. We have additional investors from China, and therefore it brings us closer to those investors. We are actively in discussion with additional partners, both in Greater China, but also across the broader Southeast Asia region. And of course, as a cash-consuming business, it brings us closer to a significant number of investment funds. So for us, we saw Hong Kong as a gateway to Asian and Southeast Asian buyer capital. We certainly think more small companies like us who should be exploring the opportunities. It's clearly, as you've seen from the other presenters who are far more knowledgeable than me, but it's clearly a very significant financial market. Hopefully you've got a flavor from both Chris and me that from a biotech and pharmaceutical perspective, this is a massive growth story, which can be supported by capital, and indeed can also provide a wealth of talent. From an EU perspective, one of the things I would say is that when we took these steps, partnering in Greater China and establishing our own subsidiary in Hong Kong, many people asked why we were doing that, and that I think reflects within our sector, within our industry, perhaps a lack of understanding of the opportunities that really exist. And on the negative side, one of the things I would say is obviously we have a lot of interaction with specialist teams within international investment banks, and The sector is not yet developed within the banking areas quite as well in Asia as it is in Europe and in North America, but it will come. And these negatives will become positives. And I think it's a really thriving opportunity for us and indeed for the sector. So I'd like to again to thank everybody for giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about our adventure into Hong Kong and our adventure into Southeast Asia. And maybe we'll have a chance to speak in a Q&A later. But thank you very much for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Stephen, for your explanation. And I do hope that your story inspires other biotechs and other companies at large. Thanks a lot. And of course, if people have questions to Stephen, remember your questions, write them down and ask them later. Then now we go to Ricardo Benussi, who is the head of European Business Development of, you can see it here, Desan Shira and Associates. Ricardo, your take on the Greater Bay Area.
Thank you very much, Paula. Thanks indeed. It is an honor to be here speaking after representative of Invest Hong Kong, two very grandstanding companies working now in the GBA in healthcare, life sciences, and after obviously representatives of cities that are very dear to us, and I'll explain in a minute why, such as Dr. Sin from the Shenzhen office here in Munich, by the way, where I'm also located. I am located here after 8 years in Shanghai, 7 of which I spent in our Shanghai office and what we call East China. You mentioned Stephen, Nanjing, that's also an area that I was looking over, and Suzhou and Ningbo, etc. But coming to the core of the introduction of my quick presentation is that why is Shenzhen and the Greater Bay Area so important for us as an operational provider, as a professional service firm? And I'll tell you quickly that since
Ricardo, can
yes.
I interrupt impolitely? Could you put your screen to full screen so everyone sees your...
Absolutely.
No worries. Sorry for interrupting.
No worries. I think I'll need to... share this. Is this better now? Yeah.
Yes, please. Lovely. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you. So we were founded in 1992 by European founders, basically, and that is in Shenzhen from Hong Kong. And that sets a bit the tone of why, and hopefully why we're here to support companies, small and medium enterprises in the GBA for starters. So it has become very important for us, and we've seen the GBA grow. We have now about 320 people working in our offices. We have 25 offices globally, and that means 20 of these are in Asia, and I'll show you in a second. And 45% of our clients are indeed European-based. And this says a lot. It says a lot because the other great part of the client base is North American, and the other is obviously, as I just said, European. But just imagine a company that is born in Shenzhen in Hong Kong, believing firmly in giving professional services firms to professional small and medium enterprises from our perspective for a multidisciplinary approach. Now that we're in a position to understand and give support in this area, it is a privilege really to be among the main players from your side, institutionally speaking, and the big and smaller companies. Now, what I would like to say is that at the end of the presentations that we had, the video from David, and also comments from Stephen, etc., and Dr. Sin, it is really difficult to make a big dent in or add some more value into the specifics of the GBA because they have already been mentioned, right? But what I can add is that if you look at a professional service firm, usually you would see a distinct number of separate services that are provided by different type of providers. Now we use a multidisciplinary approach, and not just as a marketing let's say, pitch, but I would like to underscore that this is the philosophy that we follow. And that's why, in a minute now, I'll tell you why it's so important for us to underscore some of the things that have already been mentioned today about the GBA and why it is strategic for planning in the now and for the future, for hopefully the soon to come steps for making a decision and being the GBA. So I've come up with 10 pointers or drivers, let's say. Some of them will be already a bit repetition of what you've seen and heard today, but I really like to focus, to help you focus that there is indeed a lack of understanding of how powerful the GBA is and will be, and how important it is to either understand it well and make decisions now, or to really consider it in the close future. So what are these pointers about? Proportions and growth. So we've all heard about the GDP and the population, very similar to German population. But what is really setting this part of the world and its economy apart from the rest is that, for those who don't really are familiar with the Chinese geography, etc., the GBA, so 9 cities plus Macau and Hong Kong, represent 1% of the territory of mainland China plus Hong Kong and Macau. But this 1% includes a population of about 12%. I mean, the 12% of this population gives the 12% of the GDP of the country, and also produces 25%, in excess of 25% of the output of the whole country. So this is just to give an idea of how small of a portion of this country can give such a big significance in the economy of it. Ports and transportations. 9 out of 10 container ports, the busiest in the world, are in fact in the GBA. So 9 plus 2 cities. And this is means that there's an incredible access to logistics and obviously to Southeast Asia for that matter. Tax incentives. We'll talk about some of these later, but just to let you know and to add a little bit to what has already been said by other speakers today, there are corporate income tax cuts and individual income tax incentives and subsidies for research and development, whether you're in life science or whether you are bringing your own intellectual property or developing it there. The skilled labor is another pointer I would like to stress out, but keep remembering that these are not isolated, these are not siloed things. These are all advantages that play together, and you have to intertwine them in together to bring more value to your decision and see how these integrate together for a really present day advantage for what you want to develop in the GBA. So skilled labor, we've mentioned also how young the people are, the workforce is. So in general, the GBA, it's about 35, 36 years old. In Shenzhen only it's 32, as Dr. Sin said already. But universities' presence, only in Hong Kong, the output of the graduates from some of the best universities in the world are in Hong Kong and region. And the graduates go directly into the supply chain. So you can access really good and talented skilled force, whether blue collar, white collar, you name it. So this is also important to know that on site, you can have access to talents, local talents. Millionaires and unicorns. I would rather have to write billionaires and unicorns, because 10 of the most important billionaires in China are in South China, so in the GBA, and the unicorns are also present there. So as you probably all know, unicorn companies are those that have a valuation of $1 billion, and there are 43 of them in the GBA alone. So there's 25 of these in Shenzhen, in biotech, in fintech, robotics, and healthcare, and health tech and e-commerce, and 8 in Hong Kong, and 7 in Guangzhou area. And about billionaires, there are 10 out of the 30 billionaires in China are in the GBA. So what does all this mean? Statistics, numbers, but this means there's more flow of cash and ideas, and there's more access to investors that can see your startup or see your established company on the ground, and therefore the time for decision-making is always smaller and shorter. What about private versus state-owned enterprises? The GBA excels also in the excess of private companies versus public companies. And these private companies are those that are producing most innovation in the GBA. Fortune 500, did you know, and probably you did, that 134 out of the 500 Fortune 500 companies are actually based in China. And most of these are also based in the GBA. So all of this means that the brands that you will encounter there, whether you're a supplier, whether you want to have partnerships, it's very likely that they have connections with or are themselves one of the Fortune 500, one of the 134 that I just mentioned. So this means that
Ricardo,
yes.
The audience asks us to please go to your next slide. You're
Absolutely.
still on your first one?
Well, I have very few, but yes, I'll definitely go faster. Free trade agreements, this was mentioned by...
No, to share the slide with the audience. You are still on the opening slide. What the audience... Okay, fine. Sorry. You need to click to the next one, most likely.
And what about...
You have your opening slide. So if you go to the next one, the audience can see it too.
This is bizarre. I see what I'm talking about. So let me try to...
Or otherwise you stop share and share again. Sometimes, you know, technology can pose challenges to us.
What about resume share now?
Yeah.
Yeah? Do you see the whole...
I see only the first slide, and with me probably the audience. So if you can click to the second or the third or wherever you are. Yeah, wonderful. Now we're there. Yes, super.
If I click...
Yeah, now we have you. Yes.
Okay, that was very strange. Thank you for telling me.
No, no worries.
Well, it can happen. It's a live show anyway.
Absolutely.
So just to give a couple of, going back a second, this is the multidisciplinary approach we had. And these are the pointers that I was talking about.
Yes.
I got to this point where free trade agreements, also as the speakers mentioned, this is important. And I want to stress this, not only because I've lived 8 years in Shanghai and 10 years in total in China, but I have been also witnessing how Southeast Asia, our operations in Southeast Asia, in Vietnam and Indonesia and the Philippines and Thailand are benefiting from the ASEAN Association, and how Europe is benefiting from the EVFTA, for example, since last year in August, and how the RCEP is benefiting for the whole of 14, 15 countries that it is comprised of. So being there does not only give you opportunity to grow with all the characteristics that I just mentioned, but also be able to access the larger and wider network of free trade agreements between the country and others. Supply chains goes without saying. It is connected to the ports and transportation. It is connected to the free trade agreements. And obviously being there means that you can access a very, very high skilled talent and infrastructure of the latest technology and the latest innovation, and obviously overall quality to make sure that you get to market quickly. And this is a segue in the last of the 10 pointers that I have for you, the 2-hour cycle. Some call it the 1-hour circle, economical or living circle, whatever it is. It was also mentioned quickly by David in his opening presentation. This is for concentration of cities, integrated transportation, vertical market, supply chain, free trade agreements that are embedded in the area, and also the opportunity of receiving investment. It makes it the smallest or shortest cycle from concept, R&D, the access to market, and therefore concluding the cycle of your whether economic or living cycle that you have. This is unique in the whole world. There is nothing like this. Maybe we knew that other Bay Areas had it, but this is really another game. Coming to mid of my presentation, there are a few case studies that I brought for you. Obviously, we're in the professional service industry, so our role is to translate the dreams of our clients into something that is actually doable. And I hope you can see my slide, Paula. Yes, let me know. So the first case study is in corporate. It is especially in aquaculture, fish farming, otherwise known, and the area is Zhongshan. So the premise is the following. Aquaculture has been used and done for centuries, in China especially. But recently, many farmers have been trying to cut corners and try to accelerate the process and using chemicals or bad fertilizers and bad feed for the fish, etc. And the population wants something safer. And this is the premise by which the client came to us, introducing his technology, his innovative intellectual property, and required us to set his company up. So he did in the Guangzhou area, and he invested definitely a lot of money into research and development. Now, bringing his intellectual property also contributed to one of the corporate income tax breaks that he will benefit from. And this goes down from the commonly used 25% in corporate income tax in China down to 15%. So this is a very important case for us recently, to give you an example of how quickly these subsidies and tax cuts can be applied. Other benefits enjoyed by this case and by this investor from Europe are post-expenditure subsidies. What does this mean? If there's 50 million RMB spent for research and development, then there's 500 million RMB given as a benefit to this company. And this is very likely to close before Christmas, this whole project. The second case study that I have for you, and this connects also to what was mentioned earlier today, the Wealth Management Connect initiative that started a couple of years ago, to which many Hong Kong banks have already, I think in the number of 30, have already signed up for, is the creation of a wealth management company. So the goal of this client is to set up their financial enterprise headquarters in the area, in Qinghai. And this European company will also obviously want to set through us, and will apply for subsidies up to 10 million Chinese yuan, and which is about 1.35 million euro. And other benefits enjoyed by this client are relocation subsidies. So if there's costs involved in relocating to the GBA, most likely they will get 50% of the expenses that they will incur for the relocation. Now, I probably don't have enough time. I'll go to the fourth and last case study for, in this time, individuals. So you may not have heard about the tax cuts that the individual income tax regulations are giving in the GBA to individuals. We're talking about expats here, and in what terms? So, and I will explain this maybe a little bit later, but from 2019 to the end of 2023, there will be, for the 9+2 cities in the GBA, tax cuts for individuals. And this is worth mentioning because we can talk about the details a bit later, or you can email us, the tax rates are very, very consistent. They're considerable. So in the excess of 15% of what they would pay in the GBA, everything that they would pay in the normal mainland China, they receive back based on what they would have paid in the previous year. Every year, there is a window between July and August, sometimes September, to do the applications for in mainland China, obviously in Greater Bay Area. And we see that every year it is being renewed. So we can expect this to happen also in 2022 and 2023. There is a great need for retaining and attracting talent, obviously, to compensate to all of this, all of the subsidies and the initiatives in the GBA, and we are there for our clients. So as we set up the companies, as we provide this integrated support with their financials and their bookkeeping and the HR and payroll, we also can advise them and apply for the individual income tax subsidies. And just one last analysis of this very case, we have a client that has not been able to access mainland China for obvious reasons, for COVID reasons, but he was qualified individual, a qualified talent. This means that he was either very skilled or he was already a resident of one of the areas in the GBA. But there were problems with his passport and application records. So because we were not the person, we couldn't get the qualified and confidential information from the bank, and we had to make sure that this person could be in communication with their bank and also with the local labor bureau. So we arranged video conferences, we applied for the documents, we went through the thick and thin of it, but then finally we succeeded and got the subsidies for his individual income tax for the previous year. So these steps that you see on the left are usually the ones that have to follow each time. So filing, doing an employer review, getting the outcome of the application, going through the government examination phase, and then finally, if this is approved, getting to subsidy calculation and payment out of the individual income tax subsidy. So the practical tips obviously are, keep your records up to date and inform your professional service advisor to communicate this forward this to the government. So these are the main things that I wanted to share with you today. Obviously, after the introductory presentations of the opening speakers, there's not much that I can add to the GBA in terms of bird's eye view, but in the nitty-gritty details, please rest assured that you have a partner down in the GBA and also other parts of China and Asia that can support you. And definitely we're here for more questions if you need to, and feel free to contact us and contact me. I'm based in Munich, but also definitely facilitating for partners and clients as you need.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. And well, I would say the bird's eye view maybe was done by the previous speakers, but you definitely took us to the nest with the eggs and some of the golden eggs. So I think that was a beautiful third testimonial. Then now, in the interest of time, I would like to hand over to my colleague Andrew Davis, who will moderate the Q&A. And once more, please raise your virtual hand, then we will unmute you and you can ask your question. Andrew, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Paula, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, from a sunny UK. I think what I'll do while we're waiting for a few hands to be raised, I know that through the chat there's been a couple of questions already been raised, but I'll start with you first, Dr. Yuan. Which industries and sectors are most fitting for investing in Shenzhen, do you think?
Thank you very much, Andrew, for the question, and many greetings from sunny Germany to sunny UK. Well, when it comes to industries in Shenzhen, Shenzhen has a very specialized landscape when it comes to its industry composition. With the four key industries when it comes to high tech and financial industry, modern logistics, and culture and creative industries, definitely if you belong to one of these, you will find a very suitable ecosystem here in Shenzhen, as well as the emerging industries, the IT industry, high-end equipment manufacturing, new materials, green, low carbon, marine economy, biomedicine, and digital economy. Well, overall, about 37.8% of the GDP in Shenzhen constituted from the secondary sector, and about 62% is composed of the tertiary sector. Well, actually, among which overall, again, another pie chart, 76% consists of modern service industry. Therefore, I think that creates a good picture what Shenzhen is like when it comes to its industry landscape. For example, if you're looking to invest in a huge farm, Shenzhen probably is not the right place. But if you,
I know what you mean. We've had, over my years with Invest Hong Kong, we've had some people wanting to do things in Hong Kong that are no longer feasible. Though, of course, strangely, we've had recently investments where people are looking at doing things like vertical farming, which you can do industrial buildings. So the world's changing, but thank you very much indeed for that. Now I've got a question for Chris of AstraZeneca. Chris, what are the advantages of Hong Kong and the GBA in healthcare? Oh, Chris, you've got to unmute yourself. Did you hear me?
Okay
Chris?
now?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thanks for your question. Actually, there are many advantages. For example, Hong Kong has a well-established healthcare network. Its medical service aligned with global standards and patents. Access to new treatment is relatively faster and easier in Hong Kong. And then the Hong Kong government will continue to promote the development of life and health technology. For example, they have just announced that they will set up a team to assist more institutions to explore how to use hospital authority medical history data for R&D. In addition, the government will also evaluate how to accelerate the legislative procedure for drug registration, including biological treatments. And then we believe that these activities can support the promotion of biomedical technology development. And with Hong Kong's geographical and cultural proximity to Guangdong and GBA, it already attracts many mainland people, for those middle-class mainland peoples coming to Hong Kong for premium healthcare services and new treatments. And in addition, the GBA has more than 80 million people with 17% of the population aged over 65. We believe that there are huge demand for high-quality healthcare services. And currently, there are many GBA cross-border projects which can also foster scientific exchange and health innovation, such as the new GBA measure of using Hong Kong registered drugs and medical equipment. And our iCampus satellite site is going to launch in Guangzhou Bio Island. We expect that there will be more collaboration with stakeholders in the region to further develop GBA to be an international hub for health and life science innovation.
I think that's a very interesting point. The aging populations, both in China and in other developed economies. I think this is obviously an area where AstraZeneca is going to lead from the front, and I think it involve that cross-border activity around things like clinical trials and such like is going to be very important. Good. And unfortunately, we've lost Stephen. He's had to go on to another meeting. But I'm going to ask Ricardo. I mean, what do you think the difference in the tax regimes between the various cities is in the GBA? I mean, you touched on it earlier, but are there fundamental differences between Foshan, Guangzhou, Shenzhen, Hong Kong, etc.?
Oh yeah, thank you. And there might be a little bit of background noise because we're working on the other apartment here, so I'll speak a bit loud. No, I think that you're referring to individual income tax, and this is a great point because companies need people, and they need talents, and whether they're foreigners, Hong Kongese, Macaoese, local, they all need to have a reason to relocate. And reason to relocate is not only given by the employer, but also by the local environment. And the whole scheme of the GBA includes that they will give significant incentive. So for those of you who have some knowledge about China or not, it doesn't matter because I can quickly summarize here what happens in this case. If I was to send an expat to a company in Nanjing or in Beijing or Dalian, they were subject to a particular comprehensive income bracket list. So that goes it has 7 levels, progressive rates. So it goes from 3 to 45. And then there would be taxed on income from operation. And that's a 5-level progressive rate, from 5 to 35, and more so on. So for stock dividends, bonuses, etc., those are all taxed 20% at once. Now, Hong Kong is different, and I don't want to go into Hong Kong because we know it has 5-level progressive rates as well. It goes up to 17 or standard 15. But in the GBA, the big news since 2019, as I said, until the end of 2023, but we can expect extensions. We're talking about 15% individual income tax rate with subsidies for qualifying overseas talents at 15%. So this, as I tried to say quickly, or maybe too quickly in my slide, that you will be paying only 15% and you will be getting back whatever you would have paid in mainland China in excess of those 15%. So this is an extremely welcoming opportunity for those who have to design the IIT operation or the salaries for the expats. And I'm thinking and talking to chief HR officers or HR people in the WUFIs in China or headquarters. Now, who are these people that can benefit is a bit of a different thing, because you say, okay, everybody can enjoy this. Not really. If you are a talent, if you are a foreign talent and qualify for some requirements that they have, then you can access this type of benefit. So who are these talents? Usually there's a list, and I can go through the items very quickly. You can be a permanent resident of Hong Kong, or a Taiwan resident, or a foreign national, or a Hong Kong resident under a specific HK immigration program for talents, etc. But most of all, you have to be recognized by the state and the provincial and municipal authority as being a high-end foreign talent that has a particular class. You remember the class is A, B, C, and you should be A, and you need to have a working permit or anything that qualifies you as a high-level talent with a recognition, and that's usually through a card. And other circumstances that are a bit more rare, maybe you're a specific scientist of a research team, or you're working in a particular area that is really needed at any point in time by the authorities of the GBA. So all of these things seem complicated, but actually we go through a particular channel to see if your situation fits, and then we can give the expat or the CHRO the result or the idea whether they can benefit.
Great. Thanks very much indeed, Ricardo. David, thanks very much indeed. And if you could unmute yourself. I've just got a quick question about Invest Hong Kong services. So with the GBA team, which service is the one that our clients most frequently ask about?
Hi, everyone. Hi, hello from Hong Kong. We are having a typhoon today, but I'm still very glad to join and to speak with everyone from Europe and share the enthusiasm we have on the Greater Bay Area. Of course, the most interesting part is several things we do. One is to increase the awareness of the Greater Bay Area to the whole world. Many from the business community are not fully understand the opportunity. That's one thing. And the second is they always wonder what are the opportunities of different sectors, what are the different mainland policies that they are interested in. And especially there are many updates frequently from the mainland GBA cities. That's why we have a GBA website. We update it weekly to get just at least get a feel on what are the new policy and opportunities in the Greater Bay Area in different cities and different sectors. So I would highly recommend you check out our website, gba.investhk.gov.hk. So and of course we're very happy, and me and my team, to answer any specific question that you have, link up with a business partner, with our counterparts in other mainland GBA cities, with Shenzhen and other cities as well. So that's I look forward to talking with all of you soon. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks very much indeed, David. I mean, we've also had a question about the early steps into Hong Kong and the GBA. And I know, Paola, you put up there a quick response that says, the Hong Kong Trade Development Council can help find distributors and people to trade cross-border. But also, I would imagine, Ricardo, that's a service you can advise on, people who are looking for partners and new opportunities in the mainland. And I suspect, Dr. Yuan, that's also something Invest Shenzhen do, is helping find partners, find markets for their products. Dr. Yuan, do you want to respond on that?
There are, when it comes to institutions or for example, associations and clusters, there are indeed many such entities in Shenzhen, and any companies are welcome to reach out to us as well, that we have close contacts with these institutions that we're more than happy to share.
That's great. Thanks very much indeed. Paola, I know you're in charge of timekeeping. I think we're out of...
One question, a hand raised by Mr. Franz Reusler. I would like to give him the floor.
Thank you, Paula. I think the question was already addressed to, but it's great to see Hong Kong and Shenzhen together. This is so important for us, for the GBA, really, for many international European companies. To see that you work together and there's an exchange. And thanks to this other question was anyway answered. Many companies really want, in a first step, which associations, who can give feedback on product services, and the overall this macroeconomic picture that was previously always communicated. It's important. All the cities and all the sectors that offer opportunities, but for the individual company, it's really more important for my specific product services, who are the three organizations I can talk with. They give me some feedback. They introduce me to 2 or 3 partners, and then in the long run, I think they will see anyway that there's a big value in coming to the whole area, if it's Hong Kong or Shenzhen.
Yes, if I may, Andrew, I'd like to also add a couple of comments here from Mr. Herr Rösler. Definitely, associations, institutions that work there are present there for years, such as HKTDC, Shenzhen, InvestHK, everything. They can really support. And if you're interested in comparison between, let's say, the convenience of being in one free trade zone of a specific GBA area or the other, or you need a labor, how do you say, a salary benchmarking, saying if you need 100 people in this area, how much is it going to cost in terms of social insurance, housing fund compared to another area, but still keep a relatively high quality. All of these things we can do through our business intelligence services, which are upstream, as somebody commented here in the chat box, where people need to make a decision first before setting up a company in an area that is wrong for many reasons. So we can work together with free associations and also our professional service firm to really give the client or the prospective client an idea of where to go with their investment, and then really pull the trigger at the right time and right place.
Great. Well, thanks very much indeed. I think we're out of time, so I'd like to hand over to my colleague, Dr. Wing Ching Chung, and let him make the closing remarks. Over to you, Wing.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you very much, Paula. And a big thank you to all the great speakers today. And before I give my closing remarks, I have the great pleasure of announcing the winners for the 3 tickets to the upcoming Web Summit. The Web Summit is a huge event taking place from 1st to 4th of November in Lisbon, in Portugal. And the winners are Rodrigo Brum from Portugal, Leona Chen from the UK, and Sylvia Bertrian from Spain. And I hope you guys can make it to Lisbon. In case you can't, just let us know, and then we will look for the 4th and 5th place on the list of the winners. And we are going to sponsor the Web Summit with a nice booth, and we will host a master class and at the Web Summit, and it's a really great event which is taking place live. Everyone is waiting to get back live on stage, and this is a wonderful opportunity to meet with all of us in person in Portugal. And what I just wanted to point out now to the closing remarks, I think we learned a lot today. And there was maybe a lot of little understanding among people here in Europe about what the Greater Bay Area comprises of, what it is. And I have to admit, I traveled to the Greater Bay Area like 5 years ago quite frequently. But what I learned today is that it has changed so dramatically into one of the innovation hub, not only of China, but actually of the world. And I didn't know that before. And I welcome everyone to contact us here in Europe, or for instance, David and in Hong Kong, or Dr. Xin Yuan in Munich. And we were very, very happy to support your expansion and answer all your questions about the Greater Bay Area. All our contact details are in the presentations, which we are going to email to all of you. And I just am amazed by the development of the Greater Bay Area. And today, again, I want to thank Dr. Xin Yuan from Shenzhen, from the Shenzhen office in Munich. I want to thank Mr. Chris Chow from AstraZeneca in Hong Kong. I want to thank Dr. Stephen Powell from eVRNA in Belgium, and last but not least to Riccardo Benussi from Design and Shira for their excellent presentations and all their time and their great answers to the many questions. So these, I can say bye-bye from Berlin. Maybe over to you, Paula, for the last words on this webinar.
Okay, then the last words are going to be to wish you all a very nice continuation of the day, and the PDFs and the link to the recording will make it to your inboxes. Thank you so much, and hope to continue talking about the GBA to all of you. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Absolutely. 加油。
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.